We're going to take a look at the film True Grit, both the 1969 version and the Coen Brothers 2010 film. Westerns are a very particular genre. We're going to show the 1969 clip first, and for Carter, what type of music do we expect to hear in traditional Westerns?
The Western is a genre, and there has been a musical tradition that's grown up around it. Interestingly, a lot of it was developed by a composer, Dmitri Tiomkin, who's actually from the country of Georgia. You know, he grew up in the steppes, and but he really defined what we expect to hear from a Western timpani and you know, that dum dum, you know, timpani brass strings, you know, and in this case, Elmer Bernstein is the composer. Elmer, but he was hewing to the tradition that had already been established by Dmitri Tiomkin, the timpani, the brass. And,
so this is Elmer Bernstein.
This is Elmer Bernstein.
Let's see the 1969 True Grit. So before we get to the clip of your film from 2010, what's your relationship to the 1969 score?
The first thing we said, we don't want to do Western music. We didn't know what we did want to do, but we just said, we don't want to do Western music.
And how did you arrive at what you finally did want to do?
Yeah, the discussion was to use a hymn, a Protestant hymn. Interestingly, the one that we sort of started with was a hymn that we were familiar with from another movie that we do like very much, which was Night of the Hunter. It sort of grew out of that because then Carter started listening to and listening with us to other hymns that had, we thought, the right sound and also the potential for different kinds of orchestration in terms of different moments in the movie.
So with them present here in the room, tell us, what are they trying to do to us with that music?
The young girl on the horse has been bitten by a snake. Maddie's been bitten by a snake, and she's dying. And Rooster, the man in the back, is trying to get her to help before she dies. So it's definitely a scene about urgency. In the 1969 version, the music you heard had a real strong beat to it. And when I saw that scene, I thought to myself about research that's being done right now about how we perceive beat in music. And one of the most interesting findings that's coming out of the neuroscience is that when we perceive beat in music, even if we're sitting completely still with no intention to move or dance or tap our feet, there's a huge amount of activation in the motor planning regions of our brain, what are called the premotor cortex. If I could just show you a quick image. This is another image of the brain. That's the front on the left and the back on the right, looking from the side. The blue strip is what's called the primary motor cortex, the area that's actually involved in coordinating movements when you move. But ahead of that are a couple of regions of supplementary motor cortex, the premotor cortex. There are motor planning regions. They're about planning movements. When people are perceiving music with a beat, you see a lot of activation in these motor planning movements, as if we're moving. Actually, in our minds, there's a lot of movement and motion going on with rhythm with a beat. And I think that's really relevant in this scene because it draws you into this sense of urgency. There's this race and this desire to survive, and you're pulled in. It's as if you're riding along on that horse, trying to get that girl to safety. And then when you take that away, as you completely did with your hymn, you completely change the feeling of the scene. And I think it's partly because you don't have that inner sense of movement going on. You have a very floaty kind of sense with that hymn. And that hymn is much not about this race to survive. It's about the next world. It's about what did it mean, what I just did in the film. She killed the person who killed her father. So she's reflecting on what just happened. These dead bodies we see around us, this otherworldly insect sounds, it completely takes you into a different sort of hovering, looking down upon this scene, spiritual kind of place. And I think that's partly due to the different ways our brain responds to music with and without rhythm and beat.